look, let's be honest. You can choose to like it or not like it. You can think that this is a fad or not a fad, but the reality is it's here. It's been here for a long time. It's just say coming down to everybody's level, and people can move faster than ever before.
Welcome to Engineer in the Loop, where we have hands-on conversations at the human-AI handoff, code, tools, and war stories for builders in the loop. This episode is brought to you by From Code to Clarity. Let's unlock clarity on what truly drives you beyond the keyboard. Join your fellow engineers of the Clarity Bites as we explore strategies to go from the code to find your clarity. During your free discovery chat with Clark, mention this podcast to get over 50% off your first session. Again, mention Engineer in the Loop for over 50% off your first paid session after your free discovery call. Let's get into the episode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the newly rebranded podcast, Engineer in the Loop, a weekly show for software engineers who ship with models in the mix. We have a Brian-less episode here with the one and only that Clark Sell. How's it going, Clark?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too bad. So I think Brian is at MSSA, which is where the Military Service Academy are graduating today. So his whole cohort is graduating, and of course scheduled right on top of when we were supposed to be recording. So congrats to all those people who graduated, entering into the workforce. That's awesome. Clark, I thought it'd be interesting to have you on because in case anybody didn't know, you're from Code to Clarity coaching program I am involved in, and we talk on a every other week basis. It's been fun. I think the podcast is going to drastically change, at least in branding and name, partly because of yours. We're going to be switching it to a more of an AI-focused podcast, which if you've been around or listened, that's a common theme in a lot of our guests. You have like Tim and a bunch of other folks. And I think listening to you and watching you change, you were that conference Clark who did kind of this thing called Unspecified on the side. Now you're doing Code to Clarity. You went and locked yourself in a cabin. You're documenting your journey on YouTube. And now there's this Unspecified thing that's kind of becoming a bigger part of your life and may or may not have AI involved there. You want to kind of
definitely does.
So like what are you planning on doing with that? Like you're changing from, I don't want to say a conference organizer or community focused, your day to day to this Unspecified thing. What is that? What are you trying to do with that?
Yeah, I mean, we historically have sort of had two jobs for the past 15 plus years. One, running the conference and everything that goes with that. And was every day of the year, 365 days. And then the day job was this little boutique software engineering company called Unspecified. And we were, doing engineering work, whether that was strategic in nature or, sort of building for others. And, that company sort of taken a back seat to the conference. And there's a whole lot of reasons in between, which global pandemics and things that, that have kind of caused that. And then we find ourselves here where we're not sort of in the shuttering phase of that conference, the company, and I need to figure out kind of where we're going. And that's sort of pushed, what are we going to do when we grow up, if you will? And, you mentioned the coaching program, that's one avenue of things that it's a nice place where I can help others grow in the things that I've already learned and done. And it's something we've done with the conference, for a long time. So it's nice to sort of formalize that. But at the other side, I got to make money. And not that the coaching's not bringing money. It's just at scale, like I'm not growing a coaching company to have, thousands of, cohorts, if you will. And so Unspecified, the place that we've been in is this engineering work. And while historically I've been an engineer, that's great. I have this thesis that the workplace is changing. So if we sit there and we look at the internet or the history of the internet, we think about back in the .com boom, it was, about marketing and, really getting your name out at scale. That was sort of the dawn of it. And yes, the internet went back before that. I realized that. But, the .com was really like, hey, can I sell, some dog bones online? Mm-hmm. And then we sort of evolved into applications, whether that was mobile in nature or SaaS. And that was really like the mechanics. How do we do work? How do we do it better? How do we connect sort of the globe in that way? And then AI is here, and we're really talking about how does a workplace change? Mm-hmm. I have a very tangible return on investment of how to do repetitive tasks, how to move faster. And that's really intriguing to me, because I got into this whole engineering thing because I looked at computers and said, hey, we can use code to make humans be better and stop doing repetitive stuff. And somewhere along the line, we sort of forgot that that's why we build software. It's just enable people to do things. And so for Unspecified, we're going to kind of take this pivot and play a role of teaching companies and helping companies modernize their operations. Like, how can we come in and help you put together a series of agents or workflows that have agents, or just, standard software automations that integrate your systems together better, such that you could maybe take advantage of AI or AI in some respect, or use some off-the-shelf tools that you just haven't really thought about. So I don't want to say that AI is like the only answer to it, because we all know that it's not really, and it's an evolving thing. But what it is causing everybody to do is have a conversation about how they do work, which is where I step in and say, well, we can use software to do it better, and we can modernize it, and let's use AI to do that. Let's use software. Let's just sort of lift it up. So, and as you mentioned, recording that on YouTube and talking about it, and we're kicking off a new project next week. Or I guess that's now this week, depending on how you go, this week or next week. But yeah, it's, sort of just diving headfirst into it and going, let's do it.
I think that's super interesting. The thing I think a lot of people get caught up with is the AI hype train of just, and I think I see it day to day already. Like, you even used it in your definition. Clark, what do you, put you on the spot, what does an agent mean to you?
A cron job.
And I mean,
it's a unit of work, right?
Yeah.
It's a unit of work that gets run by something. I mean, I don't want to say none of this is new. I'm trying to just represent the fact that software is a thing. It does a thing on its behalf. And AI has the ability to, as I'll say, have some more smarts around it and do some things. But if we're really talking about modernizing somebody's operations, if we're really talking about enabling people, that means what we're really saying is, like, I need to understand your process. I need to understand where there's a lot of repetitive work. I need to understand what questions you can't answer. And the solution to those things are all very different. In some cases, maybe an LLM can answer that better. In other cases, you just have this workflow of things that's sort of doing work. And is it really smart? I mean, is it really AI in its traditional sense? Not really. I mean, fucking Zapier's been doing this shit for a long time. Make.com's been doing this. So, but now we can put a little thought behind it and interrogate, like, we can automate emails, and there's just things that we can do easier. And you just say, okay, well, how do we take an organization? How do we take your people and make them more productive and grow revenue and just have more fun? And I think our unique angle is that we've been in engineering for so long that it's not like, it's one thing to do Hello World, right? It's a whole nother thing to build a SaaS application. And I think it's one thing to automate something, but you start to hit those edges of, like, but I need this data, or I need that, or I need to get here and I need to get there. And then you're like, oh, well, I need to write a little connector, and maybe that needs to be in this, or maybe I need an API. How do I get an OAuth token? Whatever these things are, right? That's when shit gets real.
Well, and it's always like to your point, the makes, the Zapiers, the easier to automate tools. I think sometimes people, engineers especially, and I've been guilty of this myself, I want to build it all myself. I want to own the whole problem domain. I want to own everything, when really maybe it's easier to just pay $10 a month to one of those types of services that, like, hey, now this automation is done. We can go yell at Zapier when stuff doesn't work. And
classic buy versus build.
Yeah. And sometimes I think the cost of buying is drastically decreasing. Like, you look at Copilot, right, for coding, or Cursor, or ChatGPT just bought Windsurf, but that was another one. Like, all of those tools, you could build your own agent. Can you do it for under $20 a month to help you code? Right. I'm going to say probably not.
We're in interesting times, right? The AI, whatever you want to call this phase that we're in, it's at least creating the conversation it's opening a door to have the conversation as to what can you do, or what should you be doing?
And you have a ton of organizations. I think Salesforce has been one of the most outspoken of like, we're not hiring more engineers this year. We are planning that software engineers, Salesforce has a little bit of a colorful background or history with engineers anyway, but they basically said, we're not hiring any more software engineers. We just, even with attrition and whatnot, we just expect AI. They're going to be more, everybody's going to do more with less. And that's kind of been their stance. And I think it's, part of it is true. Like, I think you will see some of those, and we do in other organizations see those productivity gains. But I think there's, like you said, there's the realigning of the business or refocusing of the lens. The last big wave, I think, was data. Everybody wanted all their data. They wanted it in a data lake. That's still going on a little bit, but it's not quite the same as the AI boom. And then before that, you had everybody needs a mobile app. And then before that, it was everybody needs a website. Yep. And I think it's the hype causes businesses to refocus and relook at, what are we trying to get out of this? Like, yeah, some people just rush to a mobile app that maybe makes more customers mad than actually helps. It's like the axis of, somebody was describing this to me, the axis of importance. Like when you're going to try something, like what is the revenue impact? What is the human life impact? Are we talking like people lose their jobs? Are we talking people die? Are you talking you make millions of dollars, lose millions of dollars? And most of these examples are usually like nobody dies and it may have a thousands of dollars revenue impact, but the upside is crazy. So it's like, why not try it? Why not get going? It can inform our decisions moving forward. We can do that safely and responsibly. Let's just get going.
Look, let's be honest. You can choose to like it or not like it. You can think that this is a fad or not a fad, but the reality is it's here. It's been here for a long time. It's just say coming down to everybody's level, and people can move faster than ever before. And so that means there's opportunity to get better. To use a Salesforce example that you gave, like everybody's gonna be able to do more with less. Well, I actually think it's like do more with more, because you're going to get tools that you haven't had before. You're going to do drastically more than you could before. Now, depending upon your organizational size, I've talked to some enterprises, and they're sort of hamstringed by their tools and things that they have because they got to go through an architectural board and a CTO and, and HIPAA and whatever kind of guardrails they have on, because they're a giant enterprise. And then you look at the small medium business and they're like, I don't have to abide by. That's not a big deal for us. We're not in that. Like, that's not our game. And then you go, okay, well, how do you get this stuff done on the backlog that you have? And they're like, well, we just don't even think about it because we can't, because I can't afford to hire any more resources. What if I just gave you something that worked 24 hours a day? And they're like, well, that'd be great, because now Jane can fucking do the shit that she's supposed to do rather than, responding to this stuff. And it's those who sort of don't embrace the change, I think, are going to lose market share, whatever that means, to those who are setting the robots up. And it'll evolve, it'll change. Like, what we know about it today, think about the internet when we went through the .com boom. We're trying to sell dog bones, and you look at the internet today, and it's this interconnected SaaS based APIs. Like, it's a completely different animal than I think any of us really expected then. And I expect the same exact thing to happen where we are today, but I think that the workplace will be a drastically different workplace. Like, Alec will have an army of things working for him because it's not worth Alec's time to be doing those things, right? Like, you and I you'll use DaVinci Resolve to take this podcast, transcribe it, throw it in a ChatGPT, get a description, or do all that stuff. That'll happen in seconds. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's actually even a byproduct of Riverside. Like, I get clips, I get transcripts.
Yeah.
I get a summary. I even can get like highlighted sections. I mean, that.
You're welcome, by the way, for that recommendation.
Yeah, thanks.
Just want you to know.
Too bad you didn't have an affiliate link. So if anybody listening does want an affiliate link, let me know. I have one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But think about the just how much further you got just by that right there pays for the tool. Your time is worth more.
My podcast quality is much higher because I was like, I'm not going to edit this. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to clean it up at all. And now I would say I would hope everybody would say the quality is better. There's AI built in to make microphones sound better too. So like muting background noise and even people not talking there's all these extra things that like would have taken me forever if I went and looked at, the sound wave of the audio files and imported everything as separate tracks and then tried to merge them together. Like, I don't have to worry about that. I get some cool transitions. Like if we do clips, it has some built-in transitions there of like people talking. Like there's all these features that, to your point,
that you wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
Like let's make it concrete, because I think people think I'm going to lose my job or this is going to, and I just argue the other way. It's like Alec isn't going to fire anybody because he didn't have anybody. You just became more productive and got to do things that were within your reach at the resources that you had. That's a win, right? And the same is true for all these companies. There's a whole pile of things that people can't do because they don't have the time to get there. And this enables them to get to those things that they should have been doing in the first place. It's not about replacing anybody. It's just making you more productive.
Well, and then take it even a step further. Once the production quality kind of stepped up a little bit, like there is a podcast tool out there that's kind of like a marketing company. I don't know exactly what, but basically they feed us leads of people. Their whole is to be the middleman of podcast guests and podcast shows. So they try to help people get onto podcasts. And once we did a higher quality of that, we've got hooked up with a lot of really cool people. That's where, a bunch of our guests came from that we didn't know before because they're just on that platform. They got our email somehow. And, it starts, I feel like we can start seeing the flywheel hopefully is starting to spin. It's just like, we have these really important people like, hey, can I be on your podcast? And like, I feel like I should be asking you to be on, not the other way around, just because like, some of these cool people doing cool stuff.
I told you.
I think
if you want to be like Alec and get great advice from Clark, you can sign up at from codetoclarity.com.
Do it right now for a 70% discount.
Right now, this is just no bullshit here. Yeah, so you just play the tape forward on that, right? You start investing more of those robot resources to do more marketing and better descriptions and better and better and better. I mean, that's what I'm doing with YouTube. Like, how do we just continue to build the machine around the things that we're doing so that I can be in the driver's seat of creating that content and doing and the teaching so that I have time to work with the customers, the strategic work and the implementation and our partners, and also create the content and do the teaching. And like just push that stuff elsewhere, right? I don't let the robots do it. It's a dream come true.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things too, when you start talking AI, and to your point, we're not talking replacing people, we're talking about making people more productive. When your company is growing in a market or getting bigger wallet share, profit share, whatever, there should be theoretically more money to go around, especially if you're in the, hey, we're going to do more with less, not hire people. Should be easier to justify to your boss or your manager, like, hey, all that work I did just contributed to our bottom line. Let's talk about a pay raise. Let's talk about a promotion. Let's talk about all the fun stuff instead of, hey, let's talk to the business about how the third year in a row we're not going to get their widget built because we're overcommitted and under-resourced. Like, I feel like that's the piece that AI can help bridge that gap.
Yeah, it's a very relevant point that you brought up. Is the engineering department, for lack of better terms, has always been the cost center, right? It's always been how much is this going to cost me to get it out? How long is it going to take? And not that, I mean, over time we'll continue to see AI do things and bring things out faster, of course. But what it is doing, because it's adding that speed, it means we can clear the backlog better. When we can clear the backlog better, that means we're more responsive to the business needs that are there, which is the whole point of the company in the first place, right? And so now the conversation is just different because we're enabling, back to my old point about the workplace changing, we're giving people tools that they can move faster to do the things, and that has an ROI that you can calculate, right? When we would launch a website, it was a cost. And you could spin numbers. You could go, oh, but look, I got 2,000 leads this month. And I go, well, how many closed? And you're like, 2. And they'd go, well, was it because of the salesperson or was it because of the awesome website? And people have thousands of different ways to calculate that and sort of spin the numbers, right? Oh, I bought leads in SEO and I got this many and I can get a 2% conversion. So it's this much great, right? And now the game is just different. The thinking is just different. And, or at least it's opening doors to have those conversations to say, what is it and what can we do? And I think it's a great place for folks in tech who want to think outside the box and see how you could really be in this enablement position in a capacity that you haven't been before.
One thing I've struggled with is I think even all of the low code tools are something that's huge out there right now. Like Copilot Studio is a great example. It kind of helps bridge, it's the Microsoft flavor of like a Zapier plus an AI agent, right? Like you can start doing that, or like with Logic Apps and Copilot Studio. It's hard because you're in a weird place at a lot of organizations where IT is a lot of times the controller of like your teams, your office, like those kind of subscriptions. And then if you're a developer, you're supposed to be doing developer-y things with cool tools like, you know, writing source code from scratch, doing that sort of junk. And it's like, I've had the conversation with people before of like, hey, if we don't know this is valuable, if we don't know we want to keep this and maintain it, can we just build a Copilot Studio agent to do the thing we need to do? Agent in the sense of like, it's a single workflow. It's something kind of small. Why not just build a low code thing that we can get out there and start getting internal feedback on immediately?
You know, I'm going to take that example even further, you know, for that conference. And I think I showed you, you know, we did a lot of stuff with Google Sheets, and we built our own menus, and we had a lot of, instead of us writing like a website that had, you know, did all of our admin stuff, so we would do like, just think of speakers and events, like just tables and tables of data of like change a session around and add another thing and whatever. So obviously those things fit really well in a spreadsheet. And what does a spreadsheet have? Filtering, calculations, like you can do all that kind of stuff. What does Google Sheets give you? The ability to write JavaScript behind a Google Sheet and to put all kinds of logic in the menu and do all this code stuff, but in a Google Sheet. And so we used the shit out of Google Sheets to basically have an admin interface. So what we needed to do, we could do in there. And now, I mean, you can take that to a whole nother level with Gemini. and I'm sure on the Office stack, you mentioned Copilot stuff like, hey, well, the power of Office and the power of Google Apps got like here, and it goes way the fuck up here, because now you can do some wicked shit that is very relevant for your business, which doesn't need to go through, you know, a development cycle. That's pretty cool.
I even think of like just writing Excel macros or Google Sheet macros.
Totally.
Like, I don't need to know how to do that. I can just describe in natural language what I want it to do. Boom, I got the thing I need.
Yeah, I was using Gemini. I think it was Gemini or ChatGPT. This was about a year ago. We needed to make some changes to our Google Sheets, and I'll be honest, I was lazy. I didn't want to get in there and mess with this stuff, and I needed a new like dimension, if you will, of what we were doing to do whatever we needed to do for the conference. I just fired it up and said, listen, I need a new menu. I needed to do these things off to these rows or these columns. I need a button that calls this URL, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Next thing I know, done. The whole thing was written. And I know the stack pretty well. So, you know, I looked through it and I was like, yeah, you know, I had to change a few things around. I mean, they were minor, but what would have taken me days before, I was done in like 30 minutes. That's fucking great. Like, that's wonderful.
I see people, I'm curious your take on this. Well, they'll kind of talk crap about a company. There's like an optimal level where a company grows up enough that they need to start bringing in developers. So, you know, we've been working out of a worksheet in Excel or Google Sheets, and then they hit kind of an optimal point where, hey, this is just too cumbersome or slow or difficult to work with. Do you think that stereotypical company in that case can now grow even further? So like we'll have even bigger companies running out of just Excel databases moving forward, just because the things that used to hamstring them enough that they needed to bring in a developer, an IT company, or, you know, a consultant. You think they now feel more empowered to continue to grow past that point because they're not hitting the same issues with AI helping them get through it? Or are they going to engage IT and other companies sooner because AI makes the development work more efficient, so we can come in and, you know, really help them with their process earlier on for less money?
I sort of think it's a meld of both of those things, right? If a company has an IT department and they really embrace the change and the tooling's there, I think you'll see solutions happen faster that you'll want to take the business further, right? Like to your point, there's a natural evolution where it's like, I need to do my job, but I need to give this over to the nerd because the nerd's going to take it further. I think there's, on the other side, I think it enables people to do things that they have thought about in their head and couldn't do it before. And so now they can kind of poke around and start doing things. And those things will ultimately become part of the process of the company that does it. And at some point, that'll either need to be extended or this or that, whatever. And maybe AI can do it, or maybe it just is its natural conclusion to like it needs to migrate to something else. The thing about it is that will have created, it will have been a viable product, like an MVP of the thing to go for. And you already know that it works, right? Because it was created by whomever who like did it and made it. Now I can hear people cringing, like, we can't have all these rogue ass applications doing the things and doing this. Like, let me tell you, every fucking company runs off spreadsheets, like it or not. Like, that shit happens. They're like, that's for real. But yeah, I think you'll just see, much like you can, oh God, I can't believe these words coming out of my mouth. Much like you can vibe code some shit, which terrible that that's the name. You know, it lets you suss out an idea and see it. And that there's a lot to be said for that. And I think we'll see this sort of ebb and flow for a while. And my gut says what we'll see is more development than we've ever had in the past, because it's just going to unlock more ideas and more things. I don't think we need less developers. I think we need better tooled developers. I think we need better tooled people, and people's job roles will get more aligned with what they can do, even if they have AI as a tool. And we're using these broad strokes, using these words, but like, it's cool if they have it. That means they can do it, which means maybe you free up a technical resource to do a more impactful thing, right? Like, there's the flip side of that. It's like, now you're not bothering my engineering team, so they can get the fucking shit done that they need to get done. And I'm not dealing with this, right? You could take the support cases like, look, AI is answering it because we've already answered it 10 times. Please restart your computer and then call me back. Done. So I just think we'll just see things. I just think we'll see the workplace change and be a better place.
I think that's interesting because there's like, even my day to day, there's a lot of just BS code I write that, whether it's like parsing an Excel file or parsing a JSON and just like, hey, I need to convert this to a markdown file, or just whatever miscellaneous crap. It could take me an afternoon to write a JSON parser to convert that to a markdown file exactly like I like. Or I can write a prompt to GitHub Copilot and I'm done in 20 seconds. And I think like if you're on a team that does a lot of throwaway code, like reading Excel documents into, you know, maybe you have a bunch of different projects and you're doing stuff based on that, like that boilerplate savings gets you to skip all that, like, oh, it's time to set up another project, to do another thing. And I think then, to your point, that helps with capacity of, well, now we've shaved off the BS part. We've expedited the part where the business actually cares about. And now we have extra capacity to help different parts of the business that we've honestly neglected because it was deemed higher priority to do other things. And I think that's where the ultimate win is there, of everybody gets a little bit of help and gets better.
Yeah. And we don't know what that will unlock. And that's sort of the exciting part. Like, we have no idea what innovation, and I'm using that word loosely, like innovation comes out of that, right? How much, you know, what crazy idea that Jane has in her mind that she's trying to get an answer to, whatnot, could she then maybe she can't articulate it, and then whatever, the AIs get her there, and then it becomes part of the company that just transforms the company. Like, those are things that will start to kind of appear out of thin air. And I'll give you you know, as somebody who's just loves to sort of be in a creative space, and I sit here at times and I think, oh my God, we've done every single job in the world, right? Like, as humans, we have to have done it all by now. I mean, I know that's silly, but I happen to be, you know, an automobile, you know, fucking nerd, and I saw a guy who's a tattoo artist, and you know, you could take a very traditional sense and think that tattoo artist makes tattoos. There's nothing else left for the tattoo artist to do other than tattoos. And here, this tattoo artist found a place to where he was not tattooing humans, but actually customizing cars. So he was tattooing the dashboards or the seats. And I was like, right, we're never done. We never know kind of where that next thing lies. And here this person took his artistic skills and is now tattooing leather seats in high-end exotics, probably making a butt ton more than he was putting ink on people. And he created a whole new segment out of just thinking outside the box. And what will AI, like, to bring it back home, what have we not even remotely considered because we just didn't put the pieces together?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. Like, what jobs are going to exist now that we have more free time to think more, to drive more, to,
Explore more.
Yeah, focus on the bottom line instead of just the previous convo. We had a guest on who talked about how he used to print out paper sheets for hospital billing, and he would run the literally printed paper to everybody every day. That was his job. And just
You
even
get
in
him at a
that
hotel, right?
Yep.
They slide that paper underneath the door, and you're like, I don't know why you're doing that. I don't need that.
He was like, for hospital billing, and he's like, eventually I just put it in a spreadsheet on a thumb drive, and then like he eventually automated the reports, and like that was his progression. But it's like, what is that next thing? What is the next thing 5 to 10 years from now? We're going to look back and be like, man, could you believe they were still using paper? Like, what is that equivalent? And I don't know. There's some things that I think people are seeing that are like, yeah, that makes sense. It'll probably be at least part of that. But there's probably entire industries going to be disrupted that we're just like, this is silly that we ever did that.
I think the industry in itself will disrupt itself. You know what I mean? It, like, AI, just, I don't know how to articulate it, but like the things that we have tools for today will be reinvented by itself for itself. So sort of the mother eating its children. Like it'll just, the funny, you mentioned OpenAI spending $3 billion on a fork of VS Code. The funny part about that is, like, if it's so damn good, why didn't it write itself?
And it's
But
people
like at some point, right? We should be able to make the conclusion that you don't need that. Like it could have just wrote itself. I realize, like, these things are not possible at the moment. I don't know about buying it for $3 billion, but the natural conclusion is like, will we need those things, or will those things be able to produce themselves?
I think the other thing is like Cursor, right? When it first came out, people said it was stupid. It was just like a gimmick. And now it's like the fastest, I think, annually recurring revenue company in the world. Like they're hitting milestones quicker than anybody else. And it's like, to your point, they were just a fork of VS Code as well. But yeah. So I think if it was that cut and dry, that black and white, like we would all be like, oh yeah, we're all going to go invest in Cursor, 3 years ago or whatever. Unfortunately, it's not that cut and dry. So we just got to do our best to keep up with the trends, keep up with what's going on, and try to help guide people through it as technologists.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're sitting here listening and you're thinking, I mean, you're obviously interested in AI in some regards, maybe work in the enterprise or a small shop. If you think it's going away or it's a fad, like, I would highly ask you to reconsider life, because it's just not. Like, this is like people saying, JavaScript was a fad, and yet, I don't know. Okay, like, whatever. Just, your cheese is getting moved. Embrace it. Your job's not going away. Will it change? Yeah, it'll change. Like, don't you like new things? Like, hasn't the last 10 years been really boring? Like yet another, JavaScript framework to do another browser thing. Like, it's cool, great, I guess.
I agree. Do you have any last minute thoughts or calls to action, Clark, that you want to give our audience?
Well, I guess building off of that, I would just encourage people to think outside the box and play with these tools and see and think about how you would be more capable, right? How are you going to be a better developer if you were given these tools? And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who don't have access to that stuff. But I would get ready now for when you do, because it's not an if, it's just a when. I don't know, calls to action. Look, you want to be more intentional in life and need some mentoring, some coaching, go check out From Code to Clarity, and happy to have a free discovery call, and we have a massive discount, as Alex alluded to earlier, just sort of our launch. You can work with me directly. And if you think, oh, damn, you're good. Look at that. And if you're a small and medium business and you're thinking about AI and you want to talk about modernizing your operations and seeing how that may change, I would reach out to us. We don't even have the new website launched, but unspecified.io. shoot us a message and shoot me an email. Find me on Twitter. I'm all over the place. Find me on LinkedIn. Email hello@unspecified.io. That's simple. You're watching. Subscribe on YouTube. There you go. I mean, our website's hot shit because I haven't used AI do anything with it yet. So
It's got your phone number at least, though.
Soon. Yeah, that phone number doesn't even work. That's how bad the website is. Hey, look, it's them doing the things, right? We're out doing it. There was supposed to be a new cut this week, but doing other things. But yeah, we talk about it. I talk about it almost daily on YouTube. I know you're there, Alec. You can hang out with Alec and respond to his. Oh, look at you, got all the things. You can respond to Alec's comments online.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. We appreciate you filling in and being a guest for the pod. I don't know what the Brian Gorman to Clark Sell ratio is right now, but
well, I mean, let's be honest. I still think Kevin Griffin's got more airtime than me, so we're gonna have to. Still need to get that adjusted. And
there you go.
Him. Damn it, Kevin.
We'll have to ask AI behind the scenes to do a count of like how much airtime you both are at.
Yeah, this totally fake competition we have going on.
Awesome. Cool.
Kevin's a good guy.
Sweet. So have a great weekend, Clark, and we'll talk to everybody again next week.
Thanks.